Hello, LGHL, and welcome to the first edition of LGAHL Access. I'm your host, Bryson66. I've got two very familiar co-hosts, if any of you have either watched any of my shows in the LGHL. I've got my GM of Bakersfield, Noodle, and I have my graphics man and co-host, Crosby. How are you two doing tonight?
Doing good.
I'm doing well.
Alrighty, awesome. Very excited to bring the show back, and very excited to be in the AHL again. It's been a while. It's let's see, Noodle. It's been season 18 since I've been in the AHL.
Yeah, two calendar years for us.
Yep, back in Springfield. So yeah, it's been a while. I'm glad to be back. AHL is a fun place, a lot of good people, and pretty excited. Bidding just wrapped up, so we've got our team set. We're going to talk over two main topics of the show, and one's going to be about the sorry, I'm going brain dead here. Our two topics are going to be power rankings. We're going to do top 5 from each conference, and then we're also going to talk about contract studs and duds, who went overpriced, who went very cheap. Overall thoughts of this bidding, Crosby?
Well, we've seen a lot of overpaid guys. Obviously, it's the summer season. A lot of diluted talent. But the guys that went for overpaid, you could make a case for them. But I know a lot of snipes, more than usual, I'd say. But other than that, it went pretty smoothly, I'd imagine.
The snipes were very vicious. I gotta admit, I've had 6 or 5 seasons, I don't remember, as owner, and I'll tell you that you guys in the AHL don't screw around. Noodle, I know you don't screw around. I taught you well. You get in and get out with your bids, buddy, right?
Yeah, I tried to get in and out as quick as possible. Someone actually tried sniping one of my players, and I screwed them over and didn't bid on him, so he got stuck with the guy that he sniped for me.
Awesome, fantastic. See, get in and get out. That's how you avoid children. So that's that. Just anyways. So we're just gonna get into those two topics here a little bit into the show. Just wanted to deliver a message from our CHL development team. Dunks has requested 2 AHL guys to help out with the development team in the CHL. A lot of fun. As I know it seems like a pain teaching new guys, but one thing that is fun is working with guys that want to learn how to play the game. And this even goes over to FIFA for me. We have a TC development league as well, and it's a lot of fun to be able to talk with those guys and see how they play. And sometimes the new guys could teach you a thing or two. So if anyone's interested, please contact Dunks or myself. I would relay the message to them if you do contact me. So we're going to get into the show here. Next up, we're going to do the top 5 power rankings. I will leave that to Noodle and Crosby, and that'll be coming up right next. Welcome back. We are here for the top 5 power rankings. Get ready, folks. It's going to get salty. A lot of people are going to get their feelings hurt. I'm smiling because I'm excited about it. I love people getting angry. Why do you think my boy Tino and I love to cleanse the AHL of all of its salty people? So without further ado, Noodle, take it away and give us the top 5 of the Eastern Conference for the AHL.
All right, we're going to go in reverse order here. Now, it's Phillips Dispense to number 1. So number 5, we have the Wilkes-Barre Baby Penguins. Pretty much ran by Pak the Ka, Ambient, and Prowsey. Up front, they're definitely deep. You have our co-host Crosby, Pak, Daggermouth, former Texas great. Defensively, a bit of unknowns. Talent pool isn't really good defensively, but I mean, pretty much they can hang in their division, and I don't think they would have a problem making the playoffs. Moving on, we have the Albany Devils at number 4, ran by everyone's favorite owner, King Denham, Coach Denham, whatever you want to call him, with Ellie and my boy Bryce. Offensively, they have the league commissioner Brody. Very deep. Defensively, a few question marks. Sizotone at 4.25. Otherwise, a team that should make the playoffs relative easy. And going for number 3, we have the Portland Pirates. My fault. Ran by Vargy, Gunwoat, and Ovechkin. They have the infamous Bridgeport line, Doc Noob, and K-Slice. Very good defensively. Some low radar guys and some fantastic goaltenders. Number 2, we have the Rochester Americans, ran by Paulie Dunks. Claracuzo, and a Sticky Snake. Very talented offensively. Devin trusts these guys well. Really good guys defensively, goaltending, a few guys coming back from previous gen. And number one, we have the Springfield Falcons, former Eastern Conference champions from last season, Bake, Tino, Phils, whatever you want to call them, and Tatar. Talented offensively, few steals defensively, few unknowns, but goaltending, they're solid. On to the West, Crosby, over to you.
Oh, we're not starting the West yet. We're going to talk about the East first, Sean. Let's get it together. The East, good list, Sean. Personally, I think Wilkes-Barre is better than some of the teams you mentioned, but honestly, I really like Springfield. They probably do have the most depth and overall great team of the AHL, and they're going to contend without a doubt. And they're going to look to be back in the finals and claim what they've let slipped away last season. Crosby, from your perspective, I know you're on Wilkes-Barre, so obviously you think your team's going to be good, but besides Springfield, do you see any other team that is going to give you guys any issues this season?
Yeah, I mean, I could see Albany, obviously, with their guys over there. Denham knows what he's doing. He's been in the NHL for how long now, so he could probably show some of these AHL guys what it's like to actually have thumbs. But, from my perspective, Springfield, again, like you said, really good. Bake's a really good GM. He knows what he's doing. Everyone has a pretty good team. I think, in my personal opinion, the East is better than the West. It's deeper than the West. So it's going to be a tough time getting into the playoffs. But, definitely from my perspective in Wilkes-Barre, we're going to have a tough time. But, just by chatting with them for a few times, having the team chat and our group me, it's been fun. The guys are already into the season and ready to get going.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that I might favor Wilkes-Barre just a little bit more than any other team, mainly because I put my faith into Pak as an owner the one season for my AHL, and he did a fantastic job. Of course, along with L, who's on Albany now, I believe. I have nothing but a lot of faith in Pak. If he has the time permitted for him to do what he can this season, the Penguins are going to do some great things.
Yeah, sorry about that for introducing the West prior to our discussion. I'm slowly regaining brain cells due to doing management with LGAHL last season. I'm only kidding. But,
wow,
much,
I like it. I like it. The chirp. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, pretty much. Usually every season the East is deeper than the West, but the West usually has the powerhouses of the team. Chicago last season, ridiculously good. But, I mean, pretty much, and even Stockton 2 seasons ago. But, yeah, pretty much the East is deeper than the West, but I have to say the West has, like, the 1 or 2 teams that are, can go to any toe-to-toe with any team in the league.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a very fair statement. Crosby, let's take the West now. Here, let's take precautions. We're going to mute out Sean so we don't have any issues. Go ahead and take over, Crosby.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't want him interrupting me again. No, definitely the West, like I said, I think is better than the East. But in the 5th spot here, we got Manitoba. It's just their team, NXGI, everyone knows him as Negi. They don't really like him around the community. He's got his AGMs, Easy Mac and Super Markey, Gucci and NXGI run it. But they always have a good team. They know guys that they have chemistry with. They play club with them. They're always around the site. You see him in the chat box all the time. But nobody likes him in the chat box, but he's there. He always has a good team. They're pretty deep. Their first 2 lines are really good. Their 3rd line could use some work. Defense could use some work, and then they have a pretty good goalie back there. So I definitely think Manitoba, never have any trouble getting in and competing. At number 4, Bakersfield. Obviously, you guys, run by Noodle, and Bryce Hand over here with his $5.25 million contract. You guys got some really good pieces. I really think you do. It's just a matter of, again, depth because it is a summer season. You'd like to see better defense. You got some guys there. I know Bree for $500K, not bad. I know him as a forward, but we'll see what he does at defense. And Ian at goalie is pretty good. So you guys, again, 4th, you guys should win your division just because, again, that division isn't the greatest. Moving on to 3 and Ontario. And these guys, I transitioned Easy Mac and Super Marky, guys I got confused with in Manitoba. But definitely, iTran, he knows what he's doing. Except for that $6 million contract for Polar Panda, but we'll get into that later in the show. Uh, but yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's been here, Iowa Wild, way back when in season 19 or whatever it was. Their goalies are pretty good. Taco and Jay Flukin. Taco's really good. Flukin, has his flukes, if you want to say it that way in a pun formation. But definitely they have a strong team. Their offense is good. The defense, again, like in a summer season, pretty average. But any team is going to have pretty average defense now and again. Moving on, number 2, Chicago Wolves. This team is led by Draisaitl 29 with AGMs I'm Just a Squid and JJR. Draisaitl plays in banana leagues. That's basically what people know him for if they didn't look at last season. I know the IOHL, I think, is one of his biggest ones. He knows how to put a squad together, but whether that squad can compete in the AHL can be determined, but I like them a lot. He knows what he's doing. The only thing I would say is maybe the goalie situation. Friday the 13th isn't the greatest goalie, but, I mean, he's good. He's good, and then they have another great goalie and legend. So definitely Chicago will be competing for that top spot, trying to get home ice advantage for the playoffs and work to that. So, and then now moving on to number 1, my favorite team to come out of the entire league. I know this is a stretch to say it, but Lake Erie. Lake Erie is my favorite. Definitely team led by Wags, GM, Orpik, Scornhole, AGM, and Martin scores easy. Everybody knows Martin to score easy, basically. He puts up a ton of points, and now when you get him in a contract like the AGM role, he might not do everything, he might not be engaged in the trades, but definitely that contract and being in the free player for him will help out a lot. The defense, you can make a case that this defense is good. Some contracts that are not great on the back end, which force them to have 500K guys up front. I think for the value up front for 500K players, these guys are as good as it gets in the summer season. So definitely Lake Erie will challenge for the number 1 team of the West and number 1 team overall in the entire league.
That's interesting with Lake Erie. When I looked over the rosters quite a bit because it's been so long and I have to get familiar with some of the names. Obviously I know who Martin is and some of the guys on the roster, but that was a team I looked over a lot, and I just really you said it perfectly, is that if the 500K guys pan out, the team's going to be fine. It's a lot of money into one player with Bell, but if all those other guys work out, then they're geniuses for it. Mm-hmm. So only time will tell with them. Of course, Bakersfield's on the top 5. How can you not have a top 5 without me?
That's right.
No, but honestly, the Manitoba, I'll give a little love for Neji here. I obviously Kronksy's a good pickup. I like Shafa. I'm sure Shafa's gonna be his heart's gonna be melting when I say this, but he's a very good player, and for him to be only $1 million is extremely cheap considering the prices that some of these players went in this bidding. So he's got good players, but I feel like Manitoba's depth is going to hurt them in the long run. So we'll see how that pans out for them. And Ontario and Chicago, also great teams as well. Tranny and Easy Mac are always going to be a top contender as a management duo.
Yeah, I mean, the West, last season, AGM Bakersfield, I felt like I was the GM for a bit. No offense. Just kidding. Yeah, pretty much Grand Rapids is 2.0 is going to be on Manitoba, and then you have, basically you have Grand Rapids East and Grand Rapids West. You have Manitoba with Gucci, Broach, those guys, and then pretty much some of the guys on Toronto were from Grand Rapids last season. I mean, I don't mean to toot our own horn. I feel like I've built a good squad. I mean, it only remains to be seen. Stockton is another good team that, 6 or 7, on the list that I would put. But, I mean, pretty much there's a whole bunch of teams that could give us trouble. Milwaukee, I mean, But other than that, I feel like the West is going to surprise people this year.
Yeah, I think there's I know, Crosby, we spoke before the show, and I'm not sure if you said during the show that you feel the East is significantly better. I don't know. At this point, looking at rosters, and it's all numbers to me, and I guess time will tell. And as always, there's never a true way to determine which conference is better. But there'll always be that argument.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. Like you said, it's just stats. You're just looking at numbers from past seasons. Guys' availabilities could be changing. The summer seasons here, vacations, all that. I mean, there's just so much so many variables in the equation that you just can't really tell.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it for our top 10 power rankings. So we're gonna have 20 teams that are butthurt because they didn't make our top 5 from each conference. So I look forward to the complaints. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Sorry, I stuttered there a little bit. I had a little bit of the noodle disease. Apologize for that, folks. Next up, we're gonna have the overpaid and stud contracts. Might want to stick around for that part. It's gonna be good. Welcome back. We are here for the end of our show with our last segment. It is the overpaid contracts and the stud contracts of bidding. Crosby's going to stay put and sit quiet and listen to see how the big boys run the show. And Noodle and I are going to take over this segment as Noodle will start us off with the overpaid contracts for this season's bidding.
Overpaid. First off, we're going to start with Bell X91, Lake Erie for $8 million. I understand that the bidding pool is kind of scarce. Last season I put 7.75 on Mathis, and look how that turned out. I mean, if you have the cap and you have guys you can trust and you think can win games, I don't really think it's necessarily a bad thing. But a third of the cap into a guy, I'm not 100% sure, but only time will tell on how the season pans out. Moving on, we have Sizotone at 4.25 to the Albany Devils. Very gifted forward, I believe, in the AHL level. It's just moving the defense, no prior experience, no prior stats. I can't really judge on that, but I feel like if he can bring his expertise and his thumbs at forward to defense, I feel like he can be a force to be reckoned with, especially on the breakout and in the offensive zone. We all know that we're going to have Cronksy on this list at $8 million to Manitoba. Success everywhere he goes. 2 Calder Cups, a Memorial Cup. Hopefully he can bring this to Manitoba. I hope not. But, I mean, he's being slated second line because I think Gucci and Broach are obviously the top line of that team. Every season they are. But, I mean, if this can not affect their depth, I mean, I feel like it's a great pickup. And then, how can we have everyone's favorite, or leave off everyone's favorite AHL of all time, Danky, known as Dank to God, 6.75 to Hershey, SMS fan, what are you doing? Marsh, how could you let this happen? I'm only joking. But, I mean, if Foot with the good right players, he's good forward. He is known for scrub hunting. He basically is the Maid of Two Faces, but only more annoying. No offense, babe. But yeah, pretty much 6.75 for a left wing. Highly questionable. The Jabroni, 4.25. Jabroni is usually a solid 10D, but 4.25 on a goalie, especially in the AHL. Then again, like I said about Bell, if they have the cap space, why not? But apparently their backup is actually really solid, saying in the chat box today. But, I mean, 4.25, you could put that in more defense or forwards. But, yeah, it's one of those things that it's unusual to see, but, let's see how it pans out. And finally, just as a bonus, we have our host, Bryson66 at 5.25. Thank you for bidding him up. Welcome to the web. I really appreciate it. Nothing but love. But yeah, Bryson at 5.25, making the switch to forward. Only time will tell to see how the season goes.
Yeah, how about that? Pretty high salary. I'm not going to talk about myself, although I love to, and I know everyone would love me to talk about myself. Yeah, I mean, $8 million for one player, even in the NHL, is a steep price to pay. In the AHL, where it's $25 million salary cap, that's even more questionable. So hopefully both those teams have some good contract players, and it'll pan out for them. I will say though as well that Dank. I know a lot of people dislike Dank, but honestly, at that price, he would be $8 million if he was a more likable guy. I think that's fair to say. So at that price, and if he doesn't give any problems and puts up and wins games and puts up points, then honestly, 6.75 isn't all that bad for him in the AHL.
And just let me real quick. I just want to throw a little bit of my 2 cents into this. Like you said, Danke, maybe an attitude problem, kind of like what I am or was. If I like to say that I've changed, but I probably haven't. But I mean, you just look, and he's on a high contract on a bad team. That is one of the worst situations you could have. Because once they don't make the playoffs in about week 2, when they're 2 and whatever, 2 and 12, whatever the hell it is. And you have him. He's going to be wanting out of there. Trade request. But you feel bad for him because they're not going to be able to move that contract.
Let me ask you. How well can you do? Come on, man, from SportsCenter. I want to hear it.
Come on, man.
I think we got to get to your own segment. You were pretty ruthless there, and I appreciate that.
Come on, man.
But
and also though, real quick, Lake Erie, $8 million on a defenseman and then 4.25 on a goalie. I know I ranked you first, but like all those $500K contracts at forward, if you prove me wrong and you're in the cellar, we would know why. And now you're just stuck with them. But again, I'm going to stick true to my heart. And Lake Erie, you're the best. Good luck.
I like it. Those are some good points. I can appreciate those words, Crosby. Nicely said.
Truth has to be said.
Alrighty. So those are our overpaid contracts this season. Next up, we're going to move to the contract studs of bidding, and this is going to be my take. You're going to notice I'm picking a lot of guys that I've had experience with. That's my best way of saying what's a contract stud, in my opinion. First up, I'm going to have to go with CJC Cobras, and I know his AHL experience hasn't been the best, but if you put any... In this game, it's difficult because you could have one of the best defenses, and no matter how good or bad the goalie is, he's going to get scored on, unfortunately. So I think Cobras is a great goalie. I think at $1 million, that's very good. I know he has great availability, and he did well in Edmonton for me when I had him. So I look to see him do the same thing, especially on Portland. Portland's a fairly decent team. We've got them, I believe, number 3 in the East. So it's a pretty good price for if he is the starter, a starting goalie at $1 million. Next up, we've got my boy Howie Dew. Howie Dew went for $1.5 million. Howie's playing defense this season, not his normal forward. But one of the things I've noticed, and I think a lot of people can agree to this, that it's easier to make a transition from forward to defense than defense to forward. In all honesty, most people can play AHL defense. It doesn't take a wizard to figure it out, but as far as forward and being creative, I think that takes a little more skill to be able to play forward than defense. So I know some people would argue with me there, but at the AHL level, Howie at $1.5 million for defense, I think is an excellent contract, and he's a great dude and a good team player to have around in the locker room, so to speak. Next up, I have Sedhabs. Sedhabs went for $2,250,000. He's playing center. I believe he's had some forward experience in the AHL before, if I'm not mistaken. Noodle, if you can clarify for me.
I think it was on Springfield when Pills and them. I know he played goalie in the CHL, but I mean during that season I was on Edmonton, so right. I don't really remember.
Okay.
But I know that he was in the CHL last season. I think he played various positions.
Gotcha. Well, Sedhabs is a good defenseman, and I think if you make the transition from defense to forward, the easiest one to make is to center because you're playing that two-way game, and I think Sedhabs at that price is very good. He has very good knowledge of the game, and I feel that for that price, it's some of you guys bidding $8 million and $7 million on forwards is a little ridiculous when a guy like him goes that cheap. That's just personally how I feel. Next up, we've got Hainers. Hainers was a part of Bakersfield last season. Was a random assignment and did absolutely phenomenal for the Condors. He went for $2.5 million. Last season he put up 54 points, 16, 7, and 2, plus 21. Hainers, some people have mixed feelings about him. I have nothing but good things to say about Hainers. He has experience from all sorts of levels. He's a good personality. I've always had a good time talking with him, and for 2.5, as I stated with Sedhabs, to pay $8 million for some guys, I think Hainers at 2.5 is a great price, considering what he can deliver for your team as far as his experience and his talent.
He's Game 7 worthy.
Yeah.
Very Game 7 worthy.
Yeah, let's. I think we should get Neji in here and talk about who's Game 7 worthy.
That could just be its own especially how that went. But yeah, Hainers, very good forward. I played with him for about 2 weeks. Got his buddy Avis. Pretty much was a good, first, second line for us. It's kind of crappy how it went down, but yeah, very talented forward. Seeing thank God went for 6.75. Hainers 2.5 on a 2-season deal. It's a good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, I have F5 Penguin, my boy Penguin. Penguin played on my team for the first time last season, and I can truly say, he always says, "Oh, I don't belong in the NHL," but he can play in the NHL at that level. He's a serviceable defenseman, and to me, if you're a serviceable defenseman in the NHL, you're a higher tier defenseman in the AHL, I guess. And for only $1 million for Penguin, considering how much he's dedicated to the league, how much of a good guy he is, and the time he does put into LG, he's going to give you. He's going to try his hardest. He's going to show up as much as he can, and he's a good person. Personally, again, $1 million is way too cheap. I told Noodle that if we didn't have defensemen locked up, I would have loved to have thrown a few bids on him. He's a good guy. AHL, he's known for doing fairly decent, so I look to see him to keep that up here on Hartford for the Hartford Wolfpack. Sorry about that, my phone went off. Next up, I've got 2 more here for you. I'm going a little bit further than Noodle here. I've got a couple of guys I wanted to make note of. This next one is a little risky, a little bit of a gray area. Noobinator at $2 million. Everyone knows Noob. He's got one of the best personalities in the whole website. But one thing he can deliver is be a solid player for your team at right wing. $2 million's great if he plays through the whole season and he doesn't give you any problems and he contributes and he's playing with people that can generate some offense and win you some games. $2 million is a phenomenal salary for Noob if this season works out for him. So only time will tell on whether or not this contract was a good pay for Portland. And last, this one was. It was hard for me to pick which one I liked the most. And honestly, between Noob, Penguin, and this next one I'm about to announce, I feel like all 3 of them were equally as good. But this one I think stood out the most. The Coach 96. Coach played on a very, very bad Minnesota team last season and still produced some good points. He's a good player. And once again, I'm going to point it out. I've said it through my whole contract studs here, is that he only went for $3,250,000. How much did Cronksy and Bell and Dank and Shizzo go for? Don't get me wrong, and myself. Don't get me wrong. I know some people want to get their friends, but a guy like him, I can't believe he went so cheap. It was an absolute steal for, I believe, Lang runs this team, Rockford. To me, Coach alone makes Lang's team from here to here with him. It completely skyrockets the way I would rank his team. So it was an excellent pickup for Lang, and hopefully it all pans out for Lang there because he's going to be a good forward, and I expect to see him in the top leaderboards throughout the AHL throughout this whole season. Crosby, let's hear what you got to say, because Noodle liked to interrupt me in between players. You were quiet.
Yeah, well, for this one, it's a lot less anger. I'd say no. Penguin's a good pick. I like Penguin. Good guy. He's not going to give you any problems. Sign up for his games, play them well, and basically do all that. Said Habs. He was on Springfield. I think season 21. I was on his team as well. I think he was a center. So he played really well and a 2.25. Even though he's moving back to defense, as you said, the center is basically the third defenseman. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult of a transition. One I want to add, though, from Rochester, actually, Maldini, 1 million. I played with the guy. They were scouting with me in club. We played sixes a lot, probably 5 or 6 games, and him at center and me at right wing, and it just clicked. I like playing with him. He knows where to be, knows how to score, knows how to get the puck to the good players. So, yeah, definitely. But I don't see my name on here, and that's kind of a problem with me. I mean, at 4.75, I'm going to be the league leader in hugs after goals. I don't know what price you put on that, but it has to be certainly higher than that. I mean, come on. I'm just the best.
Well, I'm going to say this much. After that display of your connection where you lagged there, I'm going to say I'm going to drop your value to about 500K. So you really lost a lot of value there on your argument. But no, Crosby, yeah, I mean, 4 million is a lot for you, my dude. But Maldini, I couldn't really give any take on. That's one thing I think I'm going to really lack this season, so I'm glad I have you two with me, is that I don't get to play with all these guys, and I'm not familiar with all these names, so that kind of insight is much appreciated. Noodle, it looks like you're napping over there. Don't be falling asleep on me on my show, goddammit.
Oh, sorry, just dreaming of the...
You're dreaming
playoffs.
of the playoffs. Wow, I was just okay. Care to comment any more on the players that I've mentioned?
Like I said, Crosby, I don't know about the hugs. I mean, one of our players, Hunter, he's very active for hugs, so watch out. Yeah, pretty much just same guys you mentioned. Doc status, 1 mil, former Bridgeport line. Even Crass at 3 mil, even though he gets the reputation that he gets. For 3 mil for Crass, that's not bad. I mean, if you can deal with his ego, yeah, because especially season 17, 7 mil, yeah.
That's something I agree with you 100%, Noodle, is that a lot of people, I've talked to different people, I've played with some people here over the last couple days, and some of them said, can you believe that team picked up Crass? I honestly, I don't know where he went. What team did he go to?
San Jose.
San Jose. Some people are saying, well, why would they pick him up? Why would they pay that much for him? Well, truthfully, Crass isn't all that bad of a player. He's a dickhead. I hate the guy. I'll be honest. I'll never like him. But in the same sentence, he's done well in the NHL. He has proven to be fairly decent. And if we're going off NHL track records and putting Cronksy at 8 mil, I mean, Crass at 3, it's all in all not too bad of a situation for him there.
My question, though, is how much did his second tag go for? Like, that's all, like, because you combine the two, then maybe, 3 million. Listen, Crass, I'm a good player, but that's what's always deterred me. I'm a dick. People don't like me. I go for 500K. You were the one that bid on me the most at 1.5 back in the NHL, and now I go for 4.75. But it doesn't matter about me. But Crass, I mean, if you could put just like Donald Trump in the AHL, just like this walking idiotic piece of crap, that would be Crass. Would you pay $3 million for that guy? I wouldn't. It's a good thing he's on San Jose, because that team's going to be in the basement for a while, so it'll be nice to see him suffer for a little bit.
Well, they'll be in the basement, and he will build a wall for him, I'm sure.
And they'll have San Diego pay for it.
No, they'll have Mexico pay for it, remember?
One or the other. I don't care.
You can even go...
San Diego's close enough to Mexico,
So. Yeah, I guess. Geography. Go ahead, Noodle.
You can even go as far as saying that Stockton's TC, the past 2 seasons, is better than San Jose. I mean, brutally honest, no offense, Westerhoff, former Bridgeport great back in the other league, but I mean, I don't see them going any higher, and I think Crass is going to be out by the trade deadline.
Well, I guess we will see. We can go on and on all day for this, folks, but we're going to close off the power rankings there and finish our closing statements here. Season starts Sunday. Just want to remind everyone once again, if you're interested in being a part of the development committee, please contact Dunks. He would like 2 AHL guys to volunteer their time and help out. It's like I said, it is fun to do. If you have the time to do it, please do it. Hey, you get a purple name with it. Who doesn't love a purple name? So Sunday starts. Season starts Sunday. Crosby, are you ready to display your talents?
I am ready, and just another shout out to another person that I hate. I cannot wait to play Texas because Mount Willard on defense. I cannot wait to dangle him and make him cry, and just that would be like the best thing. I don't care if we make the playoffs. I just want to dangle him, make him cry.
See, that's where I gotta draw the line. I like Willard. He's a kind soul.
No, I
Are
hate
you
him.
going to even go as far and say I'm yours?
He sucks.
All right, you know what? We're gonna think of something for you, Crosby. We'll get like a dark theme going where you just list everyone you hate and bitch about them. How's that sound?
Might as well have it at Crosby Barbecue. You're just roasting people left and right.
I like it. I like that idea. The pit, Crosby's pit. All right, we're gonna close the show off here, folks. I'd like to thank you two once again for coming on the show and helping out. It's always a pleasure working with you. We haven't determined on what our schedule's going to be like with the show, but I know that we want to do this. We're excited to be back and be back in even playing field for Crosby. We know the NHL was tough for him, so we decided to do a show in the AHL. So, all right. So I'd like to thank you all for watching. As always, co-hosts, thanks for joining me, guys, and we will see you all around. So have a good season, everyone.